What's happening? Happy Monday to all of you. Thanks for joining me. As always, an absolutely bananas game between the Titans and the Patriots yesterday. There is lots to break down in this 20-17 overtime loss. So let's get right to it. We got to start with the rookie quarterback. Drake Maye is the story of this game. Drake Maye has been the story the past month. Drake Maye, hopefully, in a good way, will be the story for the next 10 to 15 years when discussing the Patriots franchise and what this team looks like on the field. And what we saw yesterday during that game were the ups and downs that you get from a rookie quarterback. Not everything is going to be flawless. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be turnovers. There are going to be plays that make you scratch your head. But there are also going to be plays that make you shake your head. I've said that from the very beginning. The ups and downs that we have to embrace, understanding that the quarterback is 22 years old and he's a quote-unquote gunslinger. He's going to take risk. He's going to take his shots. Let's start with the good. The miraculous play. The miraculous play that ended regulation. Just absolutely crazy. Just think about it, right? Drake Maye marches his team down the field. He has really no safety net to work with. He understands what the mission is. He's got to get in the end zone. He's got to get in the end zone to give his team a chance to get to overtime. And with everything going against him, he gets down into the red zone. And on that final play, running around for like 12 seconds, just running around, buying time, keeping his eyes downfield, right? Understanding that Hunter Henry was out of bounds and he's out of the play. And never giving up, giving his team and giving himself every single solitary chance that he can give himself and give the team as he waits and waits and waits. And I have no idea how he was able to get rid of that football and put it in a place where Ramondre Stevenson had a chance to catch said football. And shout out to Mondre, who did not give up on the play, kept running around, kept trying to get open. He got open. That play right there, extension of the play, keeping the play alive, understanding the moment, having the poise, not freaking out. That is everything you want to see from a rookie quarterback. That was an outstanding play, and everybody was talking about it yesterday. Everybody was talking about it in the moment, and there are a lot of people still talking about what Drake Maye did at the end of regulation in that game yesterday. Just a tremendous, tremendous play. And there's not a lot of guys that can make that play. And I know my buddy Greg Bedard criticized people for saying that there weren't a lot of quarterbacks in the league that could throw the football downfield the way Drake did to Tyquan Thornton against the Jets when Tyquan dropped it. I still stand by that. Not a lot of dudes who can make that play. And I'm sure there might be people who believe there are a number of quarterbacks in the league who could make that play that Drake Maye played at the end of regulation yesterday. But I'm telling you, there are not a lot of guys who can make that type of play. And he's 22 years old. That's the kind of flash, right? That's the kind of play that pops. That's the play that you write down and say, yeah, he can be special if he figures out a lot of the other things happening on the field. And, you know, he lightens up on the turnovers as he learns and as he develops. Those are the kinds of plays that give you hope. Those are the kinds of plays that you say he can be a different kind of quarterback for this football team. The athleticism. He ran for almost 100 yards yesterday. Just outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. Evan Lazar writing about Drake Maye's running. He's adding yards beyond the scheme and forcing defensive play callers to stray away from man coverage so they can have eyes on the quarterback in zone structures. There's a ton of value added here on runs like his 26-yard scramble on his first drop back on Sunday. After that first run from Drake Maye, after the first scramble, the Titans decided to play 86.5% of the Patriots dropbacks in zone coverage. So that's a defense that looks at Maye and says, we can't play man against that guy. If we play man against that guy, he's going to kill us. Now, even though they changed to the zone structure, even though they went with more than 86% on the dropbacks of zone coverage, Drake Maye still killed them running around. And that's a part of the game. That's what he can bring to an offense. It's very, very difficult. You have to account for a quarterback who can run. We haven't seen that here in New England. But you have to account for that guy. And it changes the defense. It changes their approach. It changes their strategy. It changes everything. It's a different element, a different dynamic to an offense. And we saw it over and over and over again yesterday with Drake Maye running for almost 100 freaking yards. How about the toughness? Just had a concussion last week. Leaves the game. Has to go through the concussion protocol. Many people were wondering, would Maye play differently? Would Maye be a little skittish running with the ball? Would he be afraid of contact? Well, Maye answered that early and unequivocally. No, I'm not going to be afraid of running with the football. I'm not going to be afraid of trying to make plays for my football team. I'm going to do what I have to do to try to move this offense. Now, there's one thing I would like to tell Drake Maye, and I think all of us should get together and say this. Slide. Please, for the love of God and all that is holy on this earth, slide, Drake. He slid a couple times yesterday, but for me, he took way too many hits. And I don't know if he did it because he listens to the podcast and he heard me say earlier, in this podcast's life about how Drake Maye actually had done a decent job in sliding and getting down, and people were overanalyzing the hit he took against the Jets. I stand by that. In the Jets game, he was getting down. He was sliding. He was protecting himself. He was getting out of bounds. He had not taken a ton of big shots before yesterday's game. He took a couple too many. Young man, make sure you slide. I have no issue with you running the football. No issue whatsoever. Again, it makes it much tougher on the defense, and it also opens things up offensively for you. But when you run, make sure you protect yourself. I thought too many times yesterday he failed to slide in time. He failed to get down and protect himself and protect, therefore, the franchise of the New England Patriots. Because if you're not getting down and you're taking those hits, that could be big-time trouble. So that's the one thing I will say about Drake running. Make sure you slide. But how about the poise from Maye yesterday, right? The end of regulation. It's not only that final play I talked about to put the game into overtime. How about the throw he made to Kayshon Boutte? A lot of people will forget that. That's second and long. That's the drive you need, right? You can't punt. You need to drive down the field and score a touchdown. And that play to Boutte was almost as impressive as the final play of regulation for Maye. Off platform, and he throws an absolute seed to Boutte. Tight window. I mean, that's a crazy throw. If you look at it from the end zone, that is a ridiculous throw. And people will forget about that throw because of the circus final play. But that throw to Boutte to move the chains and keep that offense moving, that was a fantastic play, a fantastic throw, a very, very difficult opportunity for the offense that Drake Maye was able to make happen. The jump pass, the little jump pass to Ramondre Stevenson. That's another play that's going to get overlooked, but he extends. Awkward position. Jump pass. Finds Mondre. Mondre picks up a couple yards, gets out of bounds. Those type of off-platform throws and plays we've talked about from the very beginning with Drake. He is more than capable of making them. I mean, you think about that play to Boutte, the play to Ramondre, and then the touchdown to Ramondre on that final drive of regulation. Those are 3+ plays from your 22-year-old quarterback who's starting, his third, fourth game of his NFL career on the road with time ticking down. You need a touchdown, and he is able to put a drive together like that. That's big-time stuff. Big-time stuff. And frankly, the Patriots are asking way too much of Maye right now. He was almost the entire offense. He accounted for like 95% of the offense that we saw yesterday. The entire show was Drake Maye. That's not ideal for a rookie quarterback. You don't necessarily want to put the young man in a situation where he has to run for almost 100 yards and he has to have those circus plays and off-platform plays to get you to overtime against a team that walked into the game with one win this year. The Patriots are asking way too much of Drake Maye way too early in his career. The good thing is that Maye is actually responding, and he's playing, I think, as good a football as you could possibly imagine, given the responsibility that he has within this offense. Offensive line questions we'll get to in a little bit. Coaching questions we'll get to in a little bit. Run game that doesn't get going, we will get to that in a little bit. He has all of these questions, a wide receiver room that has not been productive, that he can't necessarily count on, snap in and snap out. Think about all of the questions going against a defense that was top 10 in DVOA walking into that game. Yes, they didn't have Snead. Yes, they lost Diggs during the game, but that is still a talented defense. That is still a good defense, a challenging defense that will spin the dial, give you a bunch of different looks, and has somebody like Jeffrey Simmons on the defensive line who was wrecking shop throughout the entire game. Think about all of the adversity that Drake Maye is facing yesterday. I don't think you could expect anything more than what he gave you given those circumstances in that game. So while it's not ideal to ask for so much from the rookie quarterback, he is facing the adversity. He is making plays. He is giving this team a chance to win football games. And he is also proving that he has talent and enough talent to make his team better. Just imagine if Drake Maye had the kinds of weapons that Caleb Williams has in Chicago right now. Just imagine that. Imagine if he just had a run game. Let's start there. Imagine if the Patriots could run the football and this offense wasn't, just one-dimensional from the beginning to the end. We're talking about somebody who is climbing up Mount Everest with a refrigerator on his back at 22 years old. And he's playing the way he's playing. Again, not flawless. We'll get to some of the mistakes. But I don't know how anybody can watch that game yesterday and feel nothing but excitement about what Maye has shown us, given the circumstances, given the hand that has been dealt to him. He is doing all that he can. I think the young man, everything considered, has been tremendous. And you know who else thinks he's been tremendous? His teammates and guys that have played against him. Here's what was said yesterday in the postgame. Kendrick Bourne, Drake is just phenomenal. Keep showing it week in and week out. When you have someone like that, it encourages you to go harder. I think that's the greatest thing about Drake. He's doing things that you don't really see at a young age. I'm very excited. I want to be better for him. I think everybody understands in our offensive room that we have something in him that can make everybody better. That's somebody you want to follow. Hunter Henry on Maye. Quote, the guy's special, man. Just the way he competes, the way he plays, the way he continues to fight. I'm excited to continue to go out there and play with him. He's very special. Got a lot of talent. Evan Lazar tweeted this about what Devon Gottschall had to say in the post game yesterday about Drake Maye. Quote, that's young Josh Allen 2.0. Looks amazing. Love watching him on the sideline. I tell the guys all the time that he plays like Josh Allen 2.0. I played Josh Allen in Miami his rookie year, and he didn't look that good. And Josh Allen is a phenomenal player now. MVP type player. Drake looks better than Josh did his rookie year. Unquote. That's Devon Gottschall. And if you think this is just his teammates, no. Jeffrey Simmons, who was a monster yesterday, Jeffrey Simmons in the postgame told the media that he sought out Maye after the game. Simmons personally went to go look for Maye. Why did he go look for Maye? Simmons told the media he wanted to find Drake Maye to let him know that he's going to be a hell of a player. When a guy like Jeffrey Simmons, who is a monster, one of the best, most talented cats at his position in the league, when a guy like that takes it upon himself to go find the opposing rookie quarterback to tell that rookie quarterback, you're going to be one hell of a player, that says a lot about what the league is seeing in Drake Maye. I think that speaks volumes, and that means something. When Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry and Gottschall, these are veterans. These aren't guys who are just in the league as newbies trying to figure out the league along with May. These are guys that have seen quarterback play. These are guys who have played with a bunch of different quarterbacks, played against a bunch of different quarterbacks. When you have Jeffrey Simmons and Godshaw and Henry and Bourne collectively saying, that guy is a dude. That dude is possibly special, but he is certainly one hell of a football player. When you have veterans around the league start saying those types of things about a rookie quarterback, that's when you take notice. It's not me sitting here, Nick Cattles, talking on his podcast saying that Drake Maye has special talent and he has a ridiculous ceiling if he can figure out some of the other smaller things and develop and make sure that he doesn't make as many mistakes as he gets older throughout his career. It's not just me, a talking head, yapping into this microphone telling you about Drake Maye. It's Jeffrey Simmons and Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne and Devon Godshaw. And that means something when players are talking, because when players are talking about somebody like Drake Maye, players know. Nobody in the league knows better when a football player is legit than other professional football players. And not only do players know, players talk. I can guarantee you the Titans defense, along with Simmons, other guys, are talking about Drake Maye yesterday after that game. I can guarantee you they were talking about Drake Maye last night. They might even still be talking about Drake Maye today. Did you see what that dude did? He's pretty tough. Did you see some of those plays that he pulled out of his tuk-tuk? Not many dudes can make those kinds of throws, can come up with those kinds of plays, can have that kind of poise at the end of a regulation and drive his team down like Maye did. And when players know and players talk, that's when you start to build the reputation. That's when you can start talking about recruiting other talent. Guys like Brendan Ayuk, who said thanks, but no thanks. Now maybe the next receiver you go after, the next alpha, the next wide receiver one that you try to acquire, after seeing a day like yesterday, after seeing what Drake Maye did on that final drive in regulation, those players look at Drake and go, yeah, I wouldn't mind playing alongside that dude. He's tough. He's poised. He's talented. He's got swag. Almost always says the right things. It's good that guys are talking. All right, I got a lot more thoughts about Drake Maye and the football game yesterday. As you watch, don't forget to do a couple things that help out this podcast. Doesn't cost you any money. Doesn't take a lot of time. Hit that thumbs up on the YouTube channel. Give us that like. Also throw a comment in. How excited are you about Drake Maye? What do you think about what these other guys are saying, these other players? How's that make you feel when you read those comments or you hear me relay those comments to all of you? Your thoughts on Drake Maye. Hit that like button, that thumbs up. Throw a comment in. Those two things help us beat the YouTube algorithm. And also subscribe to this channel. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by Thanksgiving. We are now 200 away. We're making that push. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All right. Before I get to some other thoughts about this game, and I have a lot of thoughts, let's run through some super chats. Vitalics with a $10 super chat. Thanks for the 10. Do you think it's safe to buy a 10 jersey yet? Cheers. I always am super conservative when it comes to buying jerseys. I'd probably wait another year or two. But if you're that excited, go ahead. Maybe the next guy would have 10 if May doesn't work out. But I try to stay away from the jersey game for quite a while. I need to see a lot from somebody over a decent period of time before I go out and purchase a jersey. But it's your call, Vitalics. I think we should all be excited about May, though. Charlie, $9.99. Thank you for the super chat. Kid's got moxie. I'm beyond excited for the future. Yeah, he does. He's got moxie. He's got confidence, swag, whatever adjective you want to use. He's got command of the room. He always says the right thing. Me and Matt Chatham were kind of going back and forth a little bit today on Twitter because of the accountability that he takes. If you see a Drake Maye post-game press conference, he's always taking accountability. He always blames himself first. He always says he can do a better job. He always protects his teammates, whether it's the offensive line or the wide receiver room. He just seemingly always says the right thing. And Elliott Wolf and Gerard Mayo pointed that out during the draft process. They told the media, we were very impressed by how he handled the interview before we drafted him. When he was in the room, things were going bad on the field. They looked at some of his worst tape and they looked at mistakes from teammates, but May never threw a teammate under the bus. He always took accountability, even when Wolf and Mayo and other coaches in the room clearly could see that a mistake wasn't on May, a bad play wasn't on May. May would still take the responsibility of that play. He would still take the accountability and say, I could have done something better to help my teammate out. I could have been better there. This is why I screwed up. When North Carolina lost games, May was always available to the media and always handled it the right way. And he continues to do that in the NFL. Thank you, Charlie. Kyle Kirk jumps in with a $10 super chat. Run blocking is worse without Andrews. I don't know why. May is putting all the pressure on this franchise to be aggressive in the offseason. I can't trust this Pats D. Would have gone for the win with the 2-point conversion. I didn't have too much of an issue with the 2-point conversion, given the fact that May had to run around so much, and it was such a frantic, crazy, athletic end for the quarterback and a lot of the other guys on the team with him. You could also say it was a crazy, athletic, kind of bananas end for the Tennessee defense. I didn't have a huge issue, though, due to the nature of that final play of regulation. I wouldn't have argued if they went for it, Kyle. Honestly, if they went for it, they didn't get it, I'd say, I understand. They're a 2-win team. They have a chance to put the nail in the coffin. Drake May just made a terrific play. Ramondre Stevenson just made a terrific play. They have the momentum. Try to just end it right there. I would have been fine with that. But I also didn't have much of an issue with them not going for it. I do, however, find it interesting that Gerard Mayo told the media today that the decision to not go for 2 had been made well ahead of that moment. And I don't know if that's how you want to play it. I think you want to see how things unfold, and then you go from there. Pete Pretorius, $5 super chat. Thanks for the 5. Mistakes can equal learning. I'd rather May use this season to test his limits, make a few mistakes, than see him fearfully play it safe. I agree. And I have no concern about Drake May playing things safely. I don't. We've talked about it since he was drafted and leading up to the draft. He's a gunslinger. He takes risks. It's just, that's what he does. That's, his natural kind of go-to. So I don't think you're going to strip him of that. Now, does it mean he's going to take unnecessary risks all the time? No, and he will get better at that. But I agree with you, Pete. Let him take some of these risks. Let him take some of these chances, test himself, test teammates, see how he reacts, how he responds, and, try to get better from there. I don't have too much of an issue with taking shots and making mistakes from time to time. Again, it's the ups and downs of a rookie quarterback. If he's making some of the same mistakes at 25, then we got a bigger problem. Antonio Benito, did you hear Mayo's comments on not knowing the win? Yes, Antonio, I'm going to hold on to that. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I promise you I'm going to circle back to that ridiculous comment from Gerard Mayo. I will get to it, Antonio, again. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Ryan Goldberg with the $10 super chat. If Brian Daboll is fired from the Giants, is he a must-get for OC in 2025? I think he'd be a great fit because of his history with Josh Allen. And, of course, a lot of similarities between Allen and May. But you got to watch out. You got to watch out, Ryan, because that would mean Drake May has a second offensive coordinator in 2 years. If the offense does really well, does Brian Daboll want a head coaching job? Does he want his second shot outside of New York and not having Daniel Jones as a quarterback? If he is going to leave in 2026, now you're looking at Drake May having his third offensive coordinator in 3 years. So that's a very difficult thing. Now, if you got to move on from Van Pelt and he doesn't improve, and I didn't think he was great yesterday. I thought he took a step back. Thought he was better against the Jets. Thought he had made some improvements even against the Jaguars and protecting the quarterback and certain things. Thought it was a step back for Van Pelt yesterday in some instances. You can't hold on to him just because you're afraid of the future. But you have to understand the risk that if you bring somebody in like Daboll or you bring somebody else in, they might move on to be a head coach. And now you just that constant turnover at the OC position for a young quarterback isn't very good. So you have to weigh the pros and cons of that. But Daboll, yeah, he'd be a name on my list, and he'd be towards the tops of the list because of his experience with, as I mentioned, Josh Allen. All right, some of the Drake Maye downs yesterday, because there were a couple downs. Obviously, threw 2 picks. I don't know if he saw a hooker on the first pick. The overtime interception was late. He was late throwing it, and it was into the wind, which we'll get to. Again, Antonio's super chat. We will get to what Gerard Mayo said, but it was late. It was into the wind, and it was down the middle of the field. That's a very, very dangerous pass. It was first down. You didn't need it, but again, that's learning experience. Maye was trying to do too much in that moment. Looked like he had Jermichael Hasty if he wanted to check it down. Hasty had a bunch of yards in front of him. That's trying to do too much at that time, and it's a mistake. It's a bad decision. But he took accountability in the postgame, understands it's a mistake. Now we see if he can learn from it. And you're going to take some of those downs with the ups. He's going to make plays like the end of regulation that you're like, oh my God. I mean, they would not have had a chance in that football game yesterday if Drake Maye wasn't the quarterback. Right? I mean, he's the reason why they got to overtime to begin with. He was 95% of the offense. So you're going to take the ups, but you got to get ready for the downs. I thought the fumble was on him. He was a little bit late in escaping the pocket. He had Hasty for a check down on that play as well. Didn't take the profit. We talked about taking profits. He did not take the profit on that play. And Arden Key catches him from behind. I think he was trying to do too much on that play as well. Did not feel the rush behind him, and he fumbled. So those are some of the mistakes. But man, oh man, I don't know how you don't walk away from yesterday's game being super excited about Drake Maye and his future. You know what I wasn't excited about? This is the part of the podcast where I'm going to vent, okay? We're going to really rip this thing open. Let me start here, because we get the Drake Maye stuff. I just gave you 26 minutes of Drake Maye talk. 98% of that was positive. Now let's get into the issues. And there were many issues. Let's start with the offensive line. We've talked about the offensive line every single week on this show. We talked about the offensive line before this season began. At the beginning of the year, the offensive line was awful. The offensive line had been improving over the past couple of weeks. I gave you the pass protection numbers of Adarian Lowe. I gave you the pressure rate that this offensive line had given up over the past few weeks. The offensive line was getting better. The offensive line was building continuity. The offensive line was healthy. And then what did Gerard Mayo decide to do? Because ultimately, it's Mayo's call. It could be an Alex Van Pelt suggestion. I will tell you that I don't think there's any chance on God's green earth that Scott Peters, the offensive line coach, went to Mayo and said, we should move Mike Onwenu back to tackle. You want to know why I don't believe that? Because Scott Peters to the media just a couple of weeks ago said that Mike Onwenu is a guard, and they would love him to be at guard. So the offensive line coach wants Onwenu to be playing guard. So you have a chance to go into the game yesterday with that continuity, with that health, and start the offensive line that have been doing a pretty damn good job, at least in pass protection, the last couple of weeks. But for some reason, that is beyond me. And Gerard Mayo said it's because he thought it was best for the football team. That's a crock of crap. There's no way that you think putting Mike Onwenu at right tackle is what's best for the football team before a game against the Titans. And if you think that, you should not be thinking that. And I have serious questions about your ability to figure out what you need to do before you go into a game. Because against the Tennessee Titans, and I said this on Friday, and if anybody is a fan of football, you know this. The Tennessee Titans are led by Jeffrey Simmons up front. Simmons is a monster. He is a monster. And you already had a question with Ben Brown at center, right? Ben Brown's been good. But Ben Brown versus Jeffrey Simmons is a big mismatch because Simmons is so damn good. So you actually went into that football game yesterday taking your best interior offensive lineman and putting him at right tackle and counting on a rookie in Layden Robinson who hasn't played a lot of football the last few weeks due to injuries, and you put the responsibility of stopping Jeffrey Simmons on Layden Robinson and Ben Brown. That, my friends, is coaching malpractice. The fact that they changed the offensive line for no good damn reason against this specific matchup, that is coaching malpractice. You had a shot to keep your continuity, and you didn't. You ruined the momentum of this offensive line. The momentum this offensive line had been building, you killed at the start of this game. And look what happened. It was a bleep show. The interior offensive line was a mess. On the first drive, Layden Robinson is having all sorts of issues with Jeffrey Simmons. I could see that coming from a mile away. I tweeted before the game, I'm surprised that they're changing the offensive line because you've got to keep in mind that you have this interior offensive line against this interior defensive line. How in the world could you walk into that game thinking that that's a good decision? It's malpractice from the coaching staff. It's malpractice from Gerard Mayo. It's borderline insane to me that they decided to change the offensive line for no reason yesterday before that game. And it quickly backfired. And they couldn't move the ball. And they couldn't move the ball because Jeffrey Simmons was dominating the football game. And Mike Onwenu didn't get off to a good start at right tackle either. He got beat once or twice. He was late on the bubble screen on one play, getting out for the block. Just a disastrous decision by this coaching staff and by Mayo at the tippity top. And because you swapped the offensive line, because you messed around with the offensive line again, your offense got off to a terrible start. You couldn't put points on the board. You couldn't move the football. You had your young quarterback, a chicken with his head cut off, running around trying to figure some things out. Just a brutal, brutal decision. Absolutely brutal. And you know what made it worse? Is what Mayo said why they made the change after the game. Just unbelievable. Here's what Mayo said about moving Mike Onwenu back to right guard, which they had to do late in the first half. So they made the changes, and then after about a quarter and a half, they said, well, this didn't work out. Let's put Mike back to right guard. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. If you're wondering, Drake Maye was under pressure on 38.5% of his dropbacks. That's according to Evan Lazar, with 4 sacks. The protection settled down, Evan wrote, once they switched back to Jacobs and Onwenu. Wow, could you imagine that? Pass protection got better when they put Mike Onwenu back at right guard. And here's what Mayo said, moving Onwenu back to right guard. Quote, we thought putting our best player there was the best thing for the team, unquote. I want us all to take a deep breath and exhale. And I want us to think about how ridiculous that comment is from Gerard Mayo. Gerard Mayo was asked after the game why they put Onwenu back at right guard after the failed experiment of him playing right tackle with Layden Robinson at right guard against that specific matchup. And Mayo said that we thought putting our best player there was the best thing for the team. Did you not think about that before the game? That's crazy. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. So you decided to move Onwenu back to right guard because putting your best player there was the best thing for the team, but you decided that after a quarter and a half. Why didn't you just keep your best player at right guard to help block the defense's best player? My head implodes when reading something like that. You didn't think about that before the game, Gerard? You thought about that after a quarter and a half of seeing Layden Robinson get whooped? As if that was not predictable? Unbelievable. By the way, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review at Spotify and Apple Pods as well. And then I'll get to Antonio's super chat about the wind direction. So in the post game, Drake Maye tells all of us that his throw in overtime that was picked was thrown into the wind. Now, when you hear that from Drake Maye, I think a lot of us immediately thought, wait a minute, they lost a coin toss in overtime, so they had the choice of which direction they wanted to go. And if Drake Maye is accurate in his assessment that he's throwing into the wind, and you have to imagine the quarterback knows that he's throwing into the wind, that must mean that the Patriots And Gerard Mayo decided to go into the wind in overtime. Into the wind in overtime. That's buffoonery. That's buffoonery. You didn't win the toss. So you can't say we're going to receive the football, right? You can't choose to receive the football and try to end it with a touchdown. You have to pick the direction of the field that has the wind to your back. You have to. Everybody knows that. I know that. When I played Madden when I was 14 years old, I knew. Wind to your back. Wind to your back. If Drake Maye doesn't throw that interception and Joey Sly has a chance to kick a 60-yard field goal to tie that game in overtime, but Joey Sly can't make the kick because he kicks directly into the teeth of the wind, that's on the staff. The head coach. They lost the coin toss and they chose to play going into the wind. And what Gerard Mayo said today is even worse. Gerard was asked about why they played into the wind in overtime. And Gerard said, the wind changed from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. I repeat, Mayo was asked why the team was driving into the wind in overtime. And Mayo said that the wind changed from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. What are we doing? Did nobody notice that the wind changed? The game was going on for 3.5 hours. Nobody on the sideline, nobody in the booths, nobody figured out, hey, you know what? The wind has changed. What way is the wind going? I don't know if any of you have watched golf. I think I would imagine some of you have. You ever see a golfer when he grabs the blades of grass and he throws it up in the air to see what way the wind's blowing? Yeah, because guess what? I hate to break this news to Gerard Mayo and the Patriots coaching staff. Weather changes. Yeah, weather changes. What the weather is at 8 a.m. is not necessarily the weather at 8 p.m. What are we possibly doing? The head coach comes out and says that they drove into the wind in overtime because the wind changed throughout the game. It's your job, Gerard, to know in that moment, in real time, in which direction the wind is blowing. That's awful. That kind of stuff hurts my brain. The offensive line decision before the game was egregious. It was a terrible decision. It was malpractice, as I called it. The fact that Gerard Mayo did not realize, or any other coach on the sideline did not realize or didn't ask the players, how about you ask Drake Maye? How about you ask Joey Sly? Hey, which way is the wind blowing? How about you do it, right? How about you ask somebody? The fact that you didn't know what direction the wind was blowing when you were about to take a coin toss in overtime, that's inexcusable. Inexcusable. And I've said I expect a learning curve from this coaching staff. I expected a learning curve from Gerard Mayo. But not having your best offensive lineman, according to you in your own words, not having your best offensive lineman protecting the quarterback against the best defensive player when they're supposed to line up across each other and switching that offensive lineman to tackle before the game, that's rookie stuff, and it's even worse than rookie stuff. And not knowing the wind direction as you go into overtime, that's not a rookie head coach. That's somebody who is completely unprepared in the moment. It's egregious kind of stuff. I said this a couple of weeks ago after the Jacksonville loss. I'm not asking for a lot. But when you have the O-line decision and when you have the coach tell you, yeah, we drove into the wind in overtime because the wind changed from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. Gerard, you have control. You have control, my man. If the wind changed, then you change. Then you go with the wind. It's brutal. JB Brown, $20 super chat. Thank you, JB. Drake is a dude. Not overly concerned with him making rookie mistakes. I am concerned deeply by this coaching staff and even personnel staff to the point where it's fair to ask if any of them should be retained. Yeah, look, the coaching staff, we've had so many questions. I talked about Elliott Wolf at times. I have not spent as much time on Wolf because I believe a lot of this building process is done in the offseason. I believe that we should see how his first draft class actually turns out. I do not evaluate draft classes after 6, 7, 8 weeks. I try to give them a full year to see if they improve throughout the year. But I do think I might get into Elliott Wolf this week because it's the halfway point and look at some of the moves that he made. And again, if this talent doesn't get better, if Jalen Polk doesn't improve, yes, then Elliott Wolf absolutely 100% deserves all the criticism he's going to get, and I will be first in line to rip him. But I also remember that, the first month of the season, everybody was saying that, oh, Elliott Wolf did such a terrible job, with this offensive line, and they can't get out of their own way. And then the offensive line was improving, and the offensive line, at least in pass protection, had actually been pretty damn good over the last few weeks. So, again, I know it's not popular for some people, but this is how I do it. And I give young guys time to develop and get better. Because if over the next 7 or 8 weeks, Javon Baker gets on the field, he makes some plays, Jalen Polk gets out of whatever the hell he's going through, Caden Wallace is close to coming back. If he gets on the field and he gives you some good snaps, I mean, the entire picture of what this talent roster looks like, especially the young guys, can change dramatically from right now to week 16, week 17. But yeah, I mean, it's obvious. Jalen Polk is a swing and a miss right now in a big way. Big way. So we'll see. Javon Baker, he got 4 or 5 snaps yesterday. Well, can he get on the field and do something here? But yes, the coaching staff is a big concern. To me, the coaching staff is a bigger concern than Elliott Wolf. But yeah, at this point, they're all a concern. I'm just going to be more patient with the GM because the GM is a long-term position and you're trying to build for the future, not necessarily right now. We can judge coaches right now, a week-to-week synopsis. Frankly, this team has, they don't have a ton of talent, but you can look at the Miami game, the Seattle game, and yesterday's game. They could have, should have, would have won at least one of those games, if not 2 of those games, with just a couple of better coaching decisions. So it all plays into each other. But yes, we should be thrilled with Drake Maye. I might get into, depending on what happens with the trade deadline and all that, I might get into Elliott Wolf this week. Those things are, subject to change dependent on what happens and what plays out here over the next few days. Let's get to the wide receiver debacle. No, first let's get to the run defense. A few more problems here. I don't want to spend too much time on this stuff because we're already about 45 minutes into this pod, but I do want to talk about some of the other things that happened yesterday. The run game, just terrible. Running backs, 12 carries, 15 yards. It's atrocious. The interior offensive line was smoked. They could not get production on the perimeter. Tennessee has given up some run game on the perimeter on their defense. Patriots could not even get perimeter runs going. And this offense right now is completely one-dimensional. They have shown they can't run the ball. They can't run the ball consistently. They can't run the ball at all. Out of shotgun, from under center, toss plays, pitch plays, zone plays, duo play. They just can't run the ball. Maye was the entire run game yesterday. 8 carries, 95 yards, almost 12 yards a carry. So the run game wasn't good. The run defense stunk. Tennessee had 167 rushing yards. And this is with one receiver that's good in Calvin Ridley and Tony Pollard, who's good, but Mason Rudolph's the quarterback. So you're not going against a deadly quarterback that you're afraid of, and you still couldn't stop the run. Gave up 167 rushing yards, over 4 yards a carry, and the overtime drive was just the ultimate, right? The overtime drive was embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. First and 10, run for 7 yards. Second and 3, run for 4 yards. First and 10, run for 5 yards. First and 10, run for 4 yards. Second and 6, run for 3 yards. Third and 3, run for 8 yards. First and 10, run for 3 yards. Second and 7, run for 5 yards. And if Tennessee didn't fumble the snap on 3rd and 2, Tennessee probably wins that game with a touchdown because the Patriots defense could not stop the run. Eight of the 11 play calls in overtime were runs. 8 of the 11. And they got 39 yards. They had almost 5 yards a carry in overtime. 8 of the 11 plays were run calls, and you're getting 5 yards every time you run the ball. Defense couldn't do anything about it. And yeah, I'm sure they might have been a little bit tired, but this has been a story for weeks now. They improved in the second half last week against the Jets. I thought, hey, maybe they have figured some things out, and then they fell right back to it yesterday. The wide receivers continue to be a debacle. Now, Gerard Mayo protected Jalen Polk today. He said the holding call on Polk was soft. Because we have these broadcasting teams, we don't really have a lot of replays. I didn't see really the replay that was, smack dab looking at Jalen Polk on the holding call. Mayo said he thought it was soft. As far as the false start or the illegal motion, Mayo actually put that on Drake Maye, said you have to make sure that the wide receivers are set. I don't necessarily agree with Mayo on that particular play. I think that's on Polk. But the holding call could have been soft. I don't know. But the point is, every time Jalen Polk's on the field, he does something wrong. And it mystifies me. I watched him at Washington. I really liked them in the draft. I really liked the pick by the Patriots. I was at camp. Jalen Polk had a really good camp, looked sharp, looked confident, and he has just been a different guy as soon as the ball was kicked off for the regular season. I don't know why. This is not the Jalen Polk we saw at Washington. This was not the Jalen Polk that we saw in camp. But man, oh man, he's going through it. And I don't know how many snaps you can give him right now because every time you throw him out there, he screws something up. Kendrick Bourne, false start. Kendrick Bourne, short of the sticks. False start, 3rd and 14, runs a 12-yard route. Baker only played 4 snaps on offense. The wide receiver production from yesterday, 13 catches, 94 yards. That's just over 7 yards of reception. 0 explosiveness, 0 yards after the catch. Brutal. I mean, I appreciate where are my entertainers. Polk was number 100 on my board. Hey, we'll see if Polk doesn't come back from this, and if he's a complete bust, then I give you credit. I will tell you that Polk was regarded as a second-round pick by pretty much everybody. So I'm not saying that you didn't have him as 100 on your board. You nailed the assessment. You nailed the evaluation. If Jalen Polk continues to play this way and is a bust, and I give you credit for that. But that was not a reach by the Patriots. Not amongst scouts and not amongst pundits. Everybody pretty much had Polk in the second round. Many people loved the pick that, grind the tape and do those things. So where are my entertainers? I don't know. Send your tape to ESPN because you need to get all the credit in the world if, again, Polk doesn't turn this thing around. AVP questions. I got some AVP questions. I thought they ran way too often on first down to start the game. Mike Giardi tweeted out that AVP called 5 runs on their first 6 first downs. 5 of the first 6 first downs, AVP called a run. Yuck. The end of the half play calling, I didn't understand it. 1st and 10, out route to Bourne, 13 yards. 1st and 10, back shoulder to Bourne for 9 yards. I didn't have an issue with the run play call on 2nd and 1. I didn't really have a huge problem with that. And if you look at it, again, it was a good play call. And if the Patriots offensive line executed at all, it would have been there. I didn't have a problem with the 2nd and 1 run because you had all 3 timeouts. I did have a huge problem with the 3rd and 1 run call because Tennessee didn't have any timeouts. So, no, sorry. Tennessee would have called a timeout if you run the ball there and you don't get it, right? And that's precisely what happened. It's 3rd and 1. Tennessee has timeouts. So if you run the ball and you don't get it, your run game had been bad all half long. If you run the ball on 3rd and 1 and you don't get it, Tennessee's calling a timeout. They're getting the football back. So there's really no big loss if you decide to throw the football on 3rd and 1 or you trust Drake Maye. But you didn't, right? So you run the ball. Guess what? On 3rd and 1, everybody in the stadium knows what's coming. Tennessee stops it. You lose a yard. Tennessee calls a timeout. New England, 1 of 6 on 3rd down in that first half. It's because you kept calling run plays on 1st down and getting nothing out of them. Another problem I had with that end of half was not only running the ball on 3rd down and short, given that situation, but the Patriots also did not call a timeout in between the 2nd and 3rd down runs, which is just bad clock management. It's bad coaching. You run the football there and you get stuffed. You're looking at a 3rd and 1, call a timeout, come up with your best play, and then try to make something happen. Because if you end up, then you run the ball on 3rd down. You don't call a timeout, then you run the ball on 3rd down. If you get the 1st down on that 3rd down run, you're going to call a timeout after that 3rd down run, right? So in essence, you wasted like 30 seconds for no reason. Again, bad clock management. It's on Gerard Mayo. And too many mistakes. Too many mistakes. The first defensive series, Dietrich Wise, undisciplined, and he gets burnt for it. Mason Rudolph runs and gains a 1st down on a scramble. Raekwon McMillan had a bad run fit. He went too far outside. Pollard cuts it inside. They give up an explosive run. Jonathan Jones is beat in that first series. Too many penalties, 8 penalties, 58 yards. You had your punter shank 2 punts. You missed a field goal. Yes, it was 56 yards, but you missed a field goal. And a team in Tennessee that was going into this game minus 13 in turnover differential turned you over 3 times. You were minus 2 in the turnover battle. Unacceptable against a team like that. And I know that you're not a good team either. But you're talking about a team that was minus 13, last in the league in turnover differential. You were better than them in that category. You were minus 2 yesterday. Some other numbers. Tennessee, 7 for 16 on 3rd down. Patriots were only 3 of 11. Again, shout out to AVP and his bad play calling in the first half. On 1st down, run. New England, 4.1 yards a pass, ain't going to do it. Red zone defense, pretty good, 2 for 5. You'll pretty much take that. But just too many things going on. Patriots fall to 2-7 on the season. They play at Chicago next week. All right, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you're watching this podcast, if you like what we do here, that's how we beat the algorithm. You click that thumbs up on YouTube. You throw a comment in, whether you agree or disagree with me. You also subscribe, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by Turkey Day. We are 200 subscribers away. Let's continue to do that. JD did bring this up. The one-arm catch was awesome by Pop Douglas. I agree. Pop's fine. He's the one wide receiver that's been consistently good. That was a great catch. It was also an unbelievable throw by Drake Maye. The touch that he had to have on that throw, when you look at it from the end zone, is bananas. It's perfect touch over like 3 defenders. Unbelievable throw, unbelievable catch. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Pods, rate and review. That helps the podcast out a tremendous amount as well. We will be back unless a big trade happens, and we got to do a breaking news pod. We will be back on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on this channel. Nick Cattle Show. I appreciate every single one of you.